Asset Curation is basically a capability within custom AI to clean your translation memories. All right. So what is the situation? Translation memories are assets, especially for LSPs, but also for internal translation teams on the client side. But because they work with so many different vendors, they tend to get messy, and they sort of get bigger and bigger and bigger. And oftentimes they're not really cleaned a lot, and they are just not a very, what you describe as a clean database. All right, because some LSPs sort of submit some great translations, others do very messy translations. So much so that sometimes you find things like there's one English word, and then instead of there being the Spanish word equivalent to that, you'll find like almost like a 2-paragraph uh, uh, segment that corresponds to that one word, and then you think like, well, that can't be true. That cannot be an accurate translation. And because they're messy, sometimes we even have clients that just throw them in the trash after they've just been if they become too large and too messy, they just chuck them out and they create a new one. And they sometimes reference the old one then, but essentially they try to start fresh. And that is not what they should do, because that is, they've invested a lot of money into this, and they should maintain it and clean it. And with automated asset curation, they're able to do just that. So how have they dealt with this in the past? Sometimes there are scenarios where they sent this over to an LSP to clean it. It's super costly. It takes forever. And they don't even always do a good job at it. Sometimes the cleaning is not that good. So basically what we are able to do today is to, according to some filters, throw out translation segments where, like TM segments, where we feel like, okay, so first of all, this is a TM that, maybe in a specific language, pair English to Spanish, we detect the language, and maybe there is a translation stored that is sort of a German translation, which really shouldn't be in there. Or there's duplicates, or like the length ratio thing that I spoke about earlier. It's not feasible. So we're basically just throwing out TM segments that don't make any sense, so that the TM overall gets cleaner. So this is already possible today. In the future, what will come is a way to actually curate the TMs. So that is not just deleting things, but actually fixing things. All right. This is not possible right now. This is probably more towards September. And in the very future, and this is a term that flies around quite a lot with customers that engage with this a lot, is terminology compliance. This basically means that the TMs should be compliant to the term bases and the glossaries. So if you've specified specific brand terms in your term base, then those should be reflected in your TMs. That is not always the case, okay? And that will come as well. And another thing that is also sort of more towards the future is terminology extraction, which is basically, if you load up a new document, there's actual people that are called terminologists that sit and sort of handpick which terms should go into a term base, which is an array of all the brand terms, right? Where they feel like, oh, this should always be translated in the same way. That will sort of also be automated, and there's an LLM solution coming at some point in the future, but just so that you know where we're headed with this. So what are the benefits? What are the goals? What are people actually trying to achieve here with all this? So one is just increase the quality of your MT output, because with better TMs, you have a better basis on which to train your MT models. And if you are using an adaptive MT solution like NextMT, for example, it also leverages the TM. So it does a better job because it leverages a much cleaner TM. So that's really a huge boost in quality. And it, again, better machine translation means moving us one step closer to a hyper-automated localization setup, right? Because better machine translation means less human review, etc. Much more automated. So this is what this is actually all about. And it also saves a lot of cost, because there are larger enterprises that do want to keep TMs clean at all times, but they employ a lot of people to do so. It's a very costly endeavor, and now they can do this at a fraction of the cost. There's also a speed component to it. Um, there's also a speed component to it because it is much faster, but this is not the predominant thing. I think the main thing is really quality and cost. And the best thing about it is that we're actually leading the pack. There's not a whole lot of viable options here on the market that can provide something like this. So the competitive situation is really great, and people love this. They really want this, they love this, and it'll drive us much closer to hyperautomation. So here's a couple of customer stories. Um, I'm going to butcher this name. Linguitronics. They have a dedicated team of 4 maintaining and cleaning the TM. So think of it like this: there's 4 people with salaries that actually clean TMs all day. No longer need it if you sort of use our automated asset curation. Then you have also a case like Puma, where TransPerfect was their main vendor, but they weren't really happy with them. They decided to switch vendors, but they left them with sort of super messy TMs. And the TMs are not always used also just for machine translation. They're also sometimes used for as reference points for translators doing actual human translation. And they just want to provide their next vendor with a better sort of TM situation so that they actually know how the translation should be. And they're very eagerly looking to get their hands on this so that they can clean their TMs. So a couple more examples here. And finally, yeah, I'll mention this one as well. So VistaTech, one of our partners, actually told us a story about how they had a customer who gave their TM to an LSP to clean up, and it came back worse than before the cleaning. So when they trained a model on it, the clean data didn't train the model as well as the sort of unclean data. So this is a situation that's not working, obviously, and we can tap into that. So that's really, I think personally, super, super exciting, something that we should be talking about quite a lot, and we will be talking about it from the marketing perspective.